Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence. We go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun.
All right, guys. Today's date, February the 19th, 2025. And this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host, most Will Buchanan on the Frack We Got Here. We do take the events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. Before we get started, guys, let you know that we are a news podcast. We pride ourselves on being a news podcast, which means that we only research the most reputable sites with award-winning journalism and research. What does that mean? That means we only do the news. We do not do sensational news like Fox News, The Blaze, The Daily Beast, whatever extreme left or extreme right you get your views from. We simply do not follow those. We give you just the facts, nothing but the facts. At the same time, guys, we do try to maintain professionalism with limited profanity sometimes. Words do fly. Let's just be honest. At the same time, guys, we have things that might be shown, clips and trailers that might be too intense for younger viewers. So viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. So how do we actually tailor this episode of DOGE is probably the word for dumbass in Russian. Well, we're not going to start with DOGE at first because, again, with the would-be king, dictator, monarchy that we're currently in right now, Trump seems to be focused more on helping Putin right now, winning a war that he started. Yeah.
To end the biggest war in Europe since World War II, President Trump is now blaming Ukraine for being invaded by Russia 3 years ago, saying Ukrainian President Zelensky should have made unspecified concessions to placate Russia and avoid the war.
You should have never started it. You could have made a deal. I could have made a deal for Ukraine that would have given them almost all of the land, everything, almost all of the land, and no people would have been killed.
President Trump has launched a peace process, sending his top foreign policy team to Saudi Arabia to meet the Russian side. They met for more than 4 hours, leaving the Russians smiling. Ukraine was not invited. President Zelensky expressing frustration at being sidelined from the negotiations. This morning, saying President Trump is trapped in a disinformation bubble, suggesting he's following Russian propaganda. Russia occupies about 20% of Ukraine. Ukrainians fear President Trump will surrender the territory to Putin. On the front lines in eastern Ukraine this morning, Ukrainian troops are trying to both defend their country from ongoing Russian missile and drone attacks and figure out if the United States is still with them. Ivan, who by army rules only gave his first name, is the commander of a tank unit outside Kharkiv.
Does it feel like decisions are being made about Ukraine without Ukraine's input?
Yes, this is exactly the feeling we have, he said, adding, it does influence the mood. It is very demotivating.
So let's think about this for a second. Trump decides that, we're going to finally do something about the war in Ukraine and immediately wants to point out to Ukrainian president saying, hey, you guys should have never started this fight. Sometimes I try to be nice. I do try to be nice and try to sit there and say, everybody has mental slip-ups. However, anybody with a smartphone can literally figure out, I'm sorry, who invaded who. Because for all those who don't remember, just 2 years ago, which feels like it was just yesterday, Putin decided to invade Ukraine, citing that they have the rights to invade because of certain rights in their lands. It was Putin that decided to send the tanks into Ukraine. And Ukraine decided, of course, on all rights that they all justify their own right to defend their country. Trump doesn't see it that way. But, Trump saying to literally Zelensky, well, you guys should never start this fight. Well, he decided to go one step further and do the one thing that we all know that Trump loves to do. Go back to his playbook of blaming people and calling them losers. Or in this case, he called him a dictator. I'm sorry. Teapot really needs to look at Kel right now.
Volodymyr Zelensky is appealing to the Trump administration as the U.S. looks to thaw its relationship with Russia.
Zelensky said President Trump was, quote, living in a disinformation space after President Trump's false assertion yesterday that Ukraine started the war. In fact, Russia invaded Ukraine without cause in 2022. This morning, Mr. Trump fired back at the Ukrainian leader on his Truth Social platform, calling him a, quote, dictator without elections.
Zelensky, just to note, was democratically elected in 2019 after Russia's invasion. He imposed martial law in Ukraine, which has since suspended elections there. And
so, do you see that part right there? We always talk about, and again, President Zelensky is right, that Trump seems to always be stuck on whatever Fox News or whatever he does watch in the White House now, because all he does is retweet it, and Fox News loves that he retweets it, so they reset it out again, and then the whole cycle of misinformation occurs, and then you get Elon Musk somewhere in the middle of this. The thing about this is, Russia started this when they invaded Ukraine. The fact that Trump and Putin are buddies, which actually for President Zelensky and for the country of Ukraine does not spell good news. Because again, as they said earlier, Trump did send his new Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, to go kiss Putin's ass and lick his boots, which is the reason why Russians are happy. Because I hate to say this, but more than likely, we may actually be seeing the U.S. Either withdraw from assisting Ukraine, or the simple fact of the matter is he may concede in all four. He might concede in everything. He might withdraw everything from Ukraine, really, because think about it. Putin is a dictator. He has killed people to stay in power as he is in Russia. Trump would love nothing more to be in Putin's position, to have all the adoration and fear, and to be able to off somebody without, needing a reason or without accountability. So of course he's going to send Marco Rubio to go kiss Putin's ass. And of course the Russians are going to be happy because Biden did not want to negotiate with Putin. Trump is a compromised president. He will kiss the ass of every other dictator out there just to be allowed in their little He-Man woman haters club. So we will see what happens, because at first Trump wanted to deal with Zelensky for Ukraine's rare metals. I will give you XYZ. You have to give me 50% of your resources. Just like a failed, aggressive, would-be successful in his own mind businessman, still trying to get what he can out of it at the same time, saying that he's all for ending the war. Sounds like a conservative I ever heard one. But switching gears for a second, guys, go to New York, because Governor Kathy Hochul has quite the difficult decision to make about the New York Mayor, Eric Adams. As we did discuss last week, Eric Adams decided to kiss the ass of Trump. Trump then directed DOJ to drop all charges or inquiries into Eric Adams for possible bribery and election fraud campaign. 4 of his lieutenants did resign as of last week. However, the New York governor may be considering doing something that's never been actually unprecedented in quite a long while, removing Adams as the mayor.
Out of the turmoil in New York City's government, Mayor Eric Adams facing calls to resign. The governor considering removing him from office after the latest fallout from the Trump administration's decision to drop corruption charges against him. Chief Investigative Correspondent Aaron Tursky has the latest. Good morning, Aaron.
Good morning, George. This really is unprecedented tumult here in the city. This morning, New York Governor Kathy Hochul is going to consider removing Mayor Adams. A governor has never exercised that power, but Hochul said the alleged conduct at City Hall is troubling and cannot be ignored. 4 deputy mayors, including the ones who oversee public safety and public health, are resigning to stay faithful to the oaths we swore. A vote of no confidence by the top ranks of the mayor's own staff. And it comes just days after 7 federal prosecutors quit in protest of the order to dismiss the case, charging Adams with taking bribes and illegal campaign donations. Now, former U.S. Attorney Danielle Sassoon accused Adams and the Justice Department of letting the mayor off the hook in exchange for helping President Trump with mass deportations. Adams denied there was any such quid pro quo. Unless he resigns or the governor removes him, though, guys, Adams remains mayor for the rest of the year, guys.
And that's crazy, isn't it? That, keep in mind the timeline on this. It wasn't up until Trump was actually sworn in. Adams was under investigation, also under indictment. Just because there was smoke, there was a lot of smoke as far as where his campaign contributions came from, where they were put, how did he receive the money, there was a lot of quid pro quo going on and a lot of grease in the wheels, so to speak. And it's amazing that when Trump was in office, Eric Adams went up to Trump and kissed the ring and his ass. And then Trump directed his new DOJ to say, no, you can drop the inquiries. The same way with Elon Musk. Elon Musk and the Department of Labor were going to look into him and his Tesla and SpaceX organizations because of unfair law practices. However, because of his now association next to the would-be dictator Trump, those investigations have gone away. So what does that leave the governor to do? The governor has one of two choices, actually. The governor, Kathy Hochul, does have the ability to remove Eric Adams as mayor. At the same time, could this be contested and also put in lawsuits and eventually it's in the courts? Yes. But I just find it odd that, one conversation leads to Trump and all of a sudden your inquiries into charges of possible bribery, possible influence have been dropped. And that to me screams a whole lot of smoke if they were about to come forward when 4 of your lieutenants resigned. I'm just saying, sounds like a lot. But, we'll never get to see what happens as far as the federal investigation side because Trump has quelled a lot of those things. But it will be interesting to see what the governor does. But that's not the only thing she has. This other story, which again, if you guys have not been paying attention to abortion laws, and especially in our states, where some abortion cases, or I should say states have done, they have actually sat there and said, you know what, we will prosecute doctors that do perform abortions or, do pills, things of that nature. However, here's the thing that kills me in all this, that you have, and then again, what's the reason why we're still bringing up the governor in this. There's a case out of Louisiana where a doctor was accused of giving abortion services when Louisiana has restricted abortion, actually made it illegal. And actually moved forward to prosecuting doctors who may give abortion care. Anyway, one doctor had left the state, went to New York. However, Louisiana is trying to, and I cannot believe I'm saying this, extradite said doctor back to Louisiana for prosecution. Now, of course, New York governor, again, as you can see right there, Kathy Hochul, has sat there and said, quote unquote, I will not be signing an extradition order that came from the governor of Louisiana. Not now, not ever. And I think that's a great move. Now, despite how you may feel about abortion, guys, for the longest time, it used to be a woman's choice. It was a woman's choice because a woman's body is her choice, nobody else's. That used to be the law of the land until you got the crazy people and the pro-life bullshit people in there who tried to sit there and circumvent it, and successfully when they had enough people on the United States Supreme Court to actually overturn Roe versus Wade, and now have left it up to the states to protect themselves. New York being one of those states that do actually protect abortions, will actually still keep abortion safe and legal in their state, are now having these other states try to basically go after them like fugitives. We want to send back the doctor because of what they did. And I love the fact that she sat there and said, hell no. It's sad. I mean, think about it. It's 2025. And not to be on a soapbox, but it's 2025. Why are we still worried about what a woman does with her body? I am mystified about that because what a woman's body is her business. Whether or not she chooses to deliver a baby or abort a baby, that decision is ultimately up to her. It's nobody else's, nor should we care. At the same time, you pro-birth people kill me. What about the baby? If you people, as a you pro-birth, or I should say pro-life, you're really pro-birth because after birth, you really don't care what happens to the child. But if you were so pro-life, we would not have so many children looking for adoption. We would not have orphanage and child services bringing up the hills. We would not have to worry about school lunches not being given to children simply put because somebody decided that they need to work for their meals first. We would not have all these problems in the behavioral areas with kids and violence, things of that nature, if you were all pro-life, which tells me that you're full of shit. And I'll still say that to everybody that hears me. But getting off that soapbox for a second, but really proud of the fact that the New York governor has sat there and pretty much given the middle finger to the Louisiana governor and said, sorry, you may not believe in abortion, but we do. And we're not going to send a doctor back for you to prosecute. Just saying. But moving right along, guys, let's get to DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency. There's so many problems with this department, I cannot even begin to start. Well, I will start at one. Misinformation. Because Donald Trump and Elon Musk, or I should say co-presidents, co-president Trump and co-president Elon Musk, because the fact of the matter that you had Elon Musk and his son, his spawn, in the Oval Office sitting next to Trump. Trump didn't say two fucking words. Elon Musk said everything with his son right there saying, you know you're not the president. Or my daddy is this. I mean, you can be arguing what that kid said, but enough was said to where Trump was mute. Now, when I say about misinformation, folks, I mean stuff like this. Because you guys, I cannot make this up. Because keep in mind, DOGE was supposedly the BS that they gave us. DOGE was supposedly supposed to look for fraud, waste, and abuse of government systems, funding, personnel, and correct it. Keep in mind, Elon Musk had put out the fact that, and forgive me for the crude statement I'm about to say. But Elon Musk was one of the first ones talking about that, hey, we're sending $50 million to Gaza for condoms. Of course, that was a lie. He also tried to sit there and say, in this case, that, 150-year-old individuals are receiving Social Security checks. Let me point something out. If you are 150 years old and still alive and still in America, receive your check. But let's also be honest, there is nobody currently living among us on this mortal plane that's 150 years old and collecting Social Security checks, which Elon Musk had also said happened. And then, of course, had to walk that back. This is the problem with DOGE so far, that for the simple fact of the matter is, they say something, throw it out there, and then it's immediately debunked. And then they turn around and sit there and say, well, we were misinformed. Really? From the department whose sole initiative is to look at the government and say, we have to find where the fraud, waste, and abuse is and correct it. And it sounds like you guys so far, DOGE, dumbass. It seems you're the wasteful and fraudulent abuse that we've been looking for all this time. Because, again, and I stress this so heavily, whenever it comes to Musk, outside of him being a dumbass, this man is not smart. Let me stress this very heavily. Elon Musk is not intelligence. He was raised off daddy's South African mine money. He bought Tesla, which he did not create. He bought SpaceX, which he did not create, and basically was a venture capitalist. He somehow convinced Twitter, bought Twitter for billions, and even now still pads his pockets. Because, again, I point this out. For all those other people don't remember, Elon Musk still has government contracts. He has government contracts for his vehicles, for SpaceX, for Starlink, with the U.S. government. So here's the problem I have with Elon Musk, number one. How is it that you're looking for fraud, waste, and abuse overspending, and yet you are still under federal contract through your companies? He has not given up his ownership of his companies while taking on the office of DOGE. Even more so, Trump, when asked, is he a part of the government or not? Trump said he is not. He is a special government employee. What the frack does that mean? Because either you're working for the government or you're not. But at the same time, Elon Musk is the biggest walking conflict of interest outside of Trump in the White House. And yet he is allowed to spat out disinformation. Him and Trump have tried to cut down, and trust me, they're trying to cut down, saying that wasteful spending is trying to get rid of federal workers, whether it's in the IRS, whether it's in various departments, or even the big one where he's trying to get the buyout going, which everybody who listens to this buyout that Trump's trying to do, ask yourself one question. When is the last time anybody worked for that man and actually got paid for it? Because there's literally mountains of lawsuits where Trump has stiffed people on not paying them, and they had to sue them in order to get paid. And now he's trying to tell these federal workers, hey, if you guys go ahead and take this offer, we'll take this buyout, you'll get paid. It's almost as bad as people on TikTok who are quote unquote Trump lovers talking about, well, Trump's working on this stimulus package that's going to give every American $8,000 out of $40 billion. $40 billion is going to be split evenly among the American citizens. $40 billion does not equal $8,000 per citizen. It's like 200 and something. But see where I'm getting in with the misinformation? Because right now, Trump doesn't have anything going for him because everybody's ticked off of him about the budget cuts, which we'll get into shortly. But first, let's get back to the fact of what he's done so far. Because keep in mind, he's trying to go after the IRS, and only because he still owes taxes.
Administration sending shockwaves through the federal workforce. Thousands of workers who handle everything from managing federal lands to caring for military veterans have been fired. At least 2,000 workers were let go from the Department of Energy, more than 1,000 from Veteran Affairs, and another 1,000 from the Centers for Disease Control. And the agency in charge of our nuclear stockpile had roughly 300 employees fired yesterday, only to be told just a short time later they weren't all being fired after all. Now, ABC has learned that roughly 15,000 IRS employees have been identified for possible termination as early as next week. ABC's Jay O'Brien joins me now from D.C. with the latest. Jay, what can you tell us about this latest mass layoff to take place at the IRS?
Yeah, this is the scoop, Phil, from our Ann Flaherty, our senior national policy reporter. And it is, as you said, according to a person familiar, they have identified DOGE and various others in part of this Trump administration effort to gut various federal agencies, have identified about 15,000 IRS employees that could be terminated as early as next week. The exact number of terminations obviously unclear because they haven't gone through yet. This source tells, again, our Ann Flaherty, that these are individuals who are not directly responsible with filing tax returns, and that's notable, of course, because we are in tax season and hurtling towards it every single passing week until April. And it's unclear what kind of impact this would have on tax season, but it underscores, Phil, as you said, that these are massive cuts to agencies across the federal government, touching everything from, like you said, maintaining the U.S. nuclear stockpile to the Forest Service to the CDC to now potentially the IRS.
And Jay, so I stop it right there, guys, just because, number one, it's the IRS. Trump hates the IRS, especially after the fact that we just found out not too long ago, just sometime last year, that, yeah, you got caught with fraud and you owe quite the sum. That $430 million is still hanging over his head, whether he's president or not. Hey, G Sweet, crazy. Yes, it is. And it's not hard to sit there and say to think that this will not affect your, it may affect, like I said, it may affect your taxes, it may not. It's a little hard to say right now because, again, 15,000 employees losing their job, all because somebody turns around and says, oh, well, this is wasteful. Have anybody's ever dealt with the IRS would say, no, you need to give those folks the same leeway you give the military. They need all the help they can get. They need all the people they can get, because anybody's ever dealt with the IRS will tell you off the bat, it is not a picnic. It is hell to try to get one person on the phone. So now that Trump has decided, oh, we're going to just go ahead and, remove them. But that's not the only thing. Like I said, going back to the federal buyout. Remember I sat there and said, guys, that, again, anybody who believes Trump is going to pay them by simply saying, hey, if you resign, we're going to give you your salary. Remember, that's been held up right now. Still in line with the courts because, again, Trump does not have the authority.
A hearing is underway right now in Boston as a judge considers whether to block President Trump and tech billionaire Elon Musk from carrying out an unprecedented plan to buy out tens of thousands of federal workers, 3 unions, with the support of 20 Democratic state attorneys general, argued that this offer is, quote, an unlawful ultimatum to force the resignation of government workers under the, quote, threat of mass termination.
So the Trump administration says buyout is nothing more than an attempt to trim the size of government, and that any further delay would cause remarkably disruptive and inequitable repercussions. Let's get straight to our Jay O'Brien, who's up on the Hill. Also, senior reporter Catherine Falders joins us. So, Jay, let's talk about how soon we could actually have a decision from the judge.
Yeah, it's ultimately up to the judge, as you know, guys, but he is under pressure and he's under the clock because remember that deadline, that resignation deadline that was originally set for Thursday had been extended to today to allow for this hearing and allow the judge to hear these various arguments. We know that the unions who are representing federal workers and also Democratic attorneys general of various states who signed on to this case are arguing that this deadline is slapdash, that it's unnecessary, that it's unlawful, that it puts too much of an unlawful, in their argument, clock on these decisions to be made by federal workers. What the administration has been arguing is that this is well within their rights in terms of how they manage the executive branch, how they manage and reduce, if necessary, the staff of the executive branch. So it's consider the judge, or expect the judge rather to consider, obviously, those arguments when he makes a decision.
So it's crazy. Imagine you are the judge that has to decide whether or not Trump and Musk will go through with this. So let's just use one of two things, okay? Say that he does decide to go against this. Trump will do what he always does. He will appeal it somewhere. He'll try to turn around and sit there and say, oh, well, the judge, he was appointed by Biden or Obama because, you know, Biden and Obama still live in Trump's head somewhere. Imagine that. You're president and yet Biden and Obama, a white guy and a black guy, still live rent-free in your head as if you have zero accountability. That also being said, he'll appeal it. He'll try to appeal it. He'll try to sit there and say, well, we're going to take this to the Supreme Court because the Supreme Court is that conservative leaning, which is why I keep sitting there saying the whole entire time, the Supreme Court, if you truly want to show the fact that you are completely neutral in all this, you need to stop giving Trump parlay and all his cases being heard by you, because that's his ultimate trap card. If Trump does not like a court ruling, what does he always say? We'll take it all the way to the Supreme Court. We're going to take it all the way there, because he has home field advantage there. And yet the Supreme Court could turn around and sit there and say, you know what? No, this is going to be handled by lower courts. We've got bigger fish to fry, and we cannot handle it every time you don't like a ruling. It's not that hard for the Supreme Court to do, but the conservatives on the Supreme Court are all bought and paid for. So get ready to hear that. And also, here's the crazy part in the what if area. What if the judge agrees with Trump? Does this give Trump a lip to be more brazen in his decisions? Yes. But it's going to be interesting to see what the judge actually decides on. Because much like Biden, if Biden couldn't forgive student loans, Trump cannot turn around and offer a buyout to multiple federal government workers and buy them out. I'm just saying, if the ability for one isn't there, then it shouldn't be for the other. But also another reason, guys, why I'm extremely nervous, because if I've never told you anything, I have an extreme fear of flying. And the way planes have been, lately. And again, if you are flying, hopefully your flight gets there where you are safely and things of that nature. I just know for me, flying, But that being said, guys, this is another thing that bothers me that what Trump and them are trying to do. That within their mass layoffs, they are now going after Federal Aviation Administration employees. Really? Do you really want to go after the people that are your air traffic controllers, that your workers at these airlines, and things of that nature that keep our planes safe? Do you really want to lay off those individuals? That's the scary part to me. Because here's the thing, when you're laying off people in critical areas, problems happen. Keep in mind, for a lot of people who don't know this, we don't have a lot of air traffic controllers. We don't. So in the event that, just 2-3 weeks ago, that they laid off a number of air traffic controllers, did we have our first midair collision in so many years? A midair collision between a Black Hawk helicopter and a regular plane. And it's unheard of to have midair collisions over our own airspace. And again, just yesterday about a plane that landed lopsided. Now, again, I'm not trying to scare people who fly. I'm just saying, when you remove people that prevent these accidents and accidents happen, I'm just saying somebody messed up by letting people go. Even more so that Trump also wants to take shots at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. For all those that don't know, the CFPB actually has helped us in a while. They helped us get your credit reports, allow you to dispute creditors with 3 main bureaus, have prevented numerous charges by banks, even gotten people their money back from banks from overcharging and things of that nature. He also, again, this is Trump and Elon talking about they found waste. They're wanting to gut the CFPB. Now, think about this for a second. For a bureau that actually helps out Americans by trying to actually get people paid back and prevent scams, things of that nature, why do you want to gut this particular department? Because it's not waste. If anything is waste, DOGE is waste. DOGE is waste. Space Force is waste. Because, again, how in the blue hell, when they talk about waste, fraud, and abuse and overspending, does the U.S. Space Force still around? Homeland Security is still around. These 2 departments alone could go. And yet, Trump has yet to bring these things up. That alone tells you everything you want to freaking know. And also another thing that Trump will not talk about, unemployment spikes. Because with all these jobs disappearing, all these workers are filing for unemployment. Just literally since he's taken office, in DC alone, 4,000 workers have filed for unemployment insurance. Now, for all those that never filed for unemployment, it sucks. It's a crazy little process, and it doesn't give you a lot of money. At the same time, with Trump and Musk removing jobs, now unemployment's going up, which means the state has to pay out for people to pretty much survive the best way they know how. 4,000. And Trump has only been in office, guys, for less than 60 days. This man has only been in office for less than 60 days, which goes to show you. And I try to tell people this. I try to tell people this all the time about Trump. The man has only been president for less than 60 days. Within those less than 60 days, he has undone 4 to maybe 6 years of progress. 4 to 6 years of progress was undone in less than 60 days by one man. And that alone should scream to you why there's a problem. But wait, there's more. What I mean by that, guys, is this. Because I have sat there and said on this podcast that the GOP needs to actually present a bill. Well, here's the problem with said bill. They did present one. They presented and passed because the House does have a GOP majority. So does the Senate. So what they did pass, they passed a budget with $4.5 trillion tax cuts. Now, for a lot of those people wondering, well, what did they actually cut with $4.5 million? Well, I'm glad you asked. And because of that, I have a picture that helps you out. So, if you want to know what their budget looks like, here it is. Their budget literally is like this. Cutting $230 billion for SNAP nutrition programs, cutting $880 billion for healthcare funding, $330 billion for public education, workforce training protection, and $4.5 trillion, that's T, $trillion in tax breaks for the rich. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the GOP budget that just passed the House and is on its way to the Senate. And why? And I leave this up here, guys, because look at what they cut. SNAP nutrition, which means that for those on food stamps, EBT cards, for those that are getting assistance, for those that are getting housing assistance, things of that nature, that's all under that $230 billion cut, which means there's going to be less assistance for those on it. $880 billion for healthcare funding. Medicare, Medicaid have just now been affected. That's under healthcare funding. $880 billion have now been cut from that, which means that anybody that was getting those services may or may not get them. And then $330 billion for public education, workforce training, and protection. In the words of Lupe Fiasco, your child's future was the first to go with budget cuts. $330 billion is nothing to sneeze at, guys. That means that public education will be taking a mighty hit, on top of the fact that Trump has already turned around and sat there and said he wants to get rid of the Department of Education, which means that he wants education to go back to the states. And I've already sat there and said it on this podcast once before. If you're a blue state, your education system is probably fine. If you're a red state, you're probably screwed, because a lot of red states are pushing school choice, which again is a BS voucher scam to basically take away funding for public education and give it back to private and charter schools that are very much well off. But here's the one thing that nobody's talking about that they should talk about. $4.5 trillion in tax breaks for the rich. This is on top of the Trump tax breaks that he's already giving to the rich that were set to expire this year. And their plan is to extend it. And again, guys, when you look at this, I just wonder to myself, how is it that anybody could be conservative unless you're a corporation or you're wealthy? Because the simple fact of the matter is, guys, the tax breaks that are put in there, it's like 2016 all over again, but way freaking worse. But again, I say this because I know for a lot of people, they're for voted Trump, they're going to make excuses. They're going to try to defend it. It's going to be this whole thing of, well, you gave Biden. Well, Biden did all this spending. You had to spend, because this is the wheel of history repeating itself. What I mean by that is Republicans will spend to put us in the hole. Democrats have to spend to get us out of the hole. Historically, that's always been the same. Actually, the funny part is, name a Republican administration in history where it's actually been progressive and helpful toward the government, toward the country and its citizens. I dare anybody find a Republican administration to where the people actually prospered. Because historically, every Republican administration has always led to ruin. Every Democratic administration has always had to improve it. It's almost like they're the janitors. But again, prove me wrong. I pretty much pride myself on doing research very well. I have yet to find a Republican president or administration at the time to where the economy was doing great, the people were doing great, because as far as I know, or as far as I can find, it's never happened. But move right along, guys, as we still stick to DOGE, because again, DOGE is probably Russian for dumbass. 14 states are filing a lawsuit. And I'm glad they're doing this. Actually, it should be more than 14. But there's 14 states are filing a lawsuit arguing that Elon Musk's authority at DOGE is unconstitutional. And it is. Much like I said at the beginning of this podcast, how in the blue hell can a guy who's not part of the government, yet his department is not government, yet at the same time, he can turn around and make decisions that affect thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of individuals, and yet still gets paid by the government because his companies have government contracts? I'm just like, how is this not a conflict of interest? But we're going to see where it goes from that, guys, because the states, I think they're including Arizona, Michigan, Rhode Island, New York, just to name a few. Because, yes, the attorney generals are the one filing this, because they have to sit there and figure out, because if memory serves me, I think this violates the appointment clause of the Constitution, if I'm remembering correctly. But the thing I'm getting at is Trump basically created a position for Musk. It was supposed to be Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, but turns out that you didn't really need a brown guy when you already got a black guy in one office. So his DEI, his untold DEI mark has been checked for Trump. But Elon Musk is a walking conflict of interest. How are you still paid by the government through your contracts, and yet you're making decisions that affect them from a government standpoint? How? You shouldn't be able to, because again, walking conflict of interest. But we'll see how that case goes, because chances are this could lead to, it kind of goes into unwatered territory. Like, what actually happens if the lawsuit does go out and the judge rules in favor of the attorney general? Does that mean that Elon Musk is removed? Does that mean that he has to give up his contracts, which again, he should have already done that? I'm just curious to see how that would go in that situation, because technically Elon Musk was elected or not even confirmed in the same way the rest of Trump's cabinet was confirmed by the Senate. He just was like, oh, he's in my Department of Government Efficiency. And good, everybody. It's amazing because he didn't go through a Senate confirmation like everybody else, which also R.F. Kennedy being our new health secretary. Ugh. Republicans, I never want to hear you say that you got common sense, but we'll get to him momentarily. We need to get to Amazon for a second because, again, there was another Amazon union vote, and much like Amazon being the union busters that they are, got into the ears of the North Carolina warehouse. Unfortunately, not joining Staten Island, where the Staten Island warehouse, where they succeeded in creating a union there was a union vote at North Carolina warehouse to where they have decided through a large vote that they will vote not to unionize. And again, the only people that are actually happy about this whole thing is Amazon, because I love how Amazon does this, because Amazon is one of the biggest union busters out there. They will literally hire strategy consultants, group people to figure out how they can bend the law, because union busting is legal. But unfortunately, in this state, union busting does not come with prison laws. They just come with fines. But here's the crazy part that they sat there and said, quote unquote, we're glad that our team in Gardner was able to have their voices heard and that they chose to keep a direct relationship with Amazon. We look forward to continuing to make this place a great place to work together to support our teammates as they build their future with us. If that wasn't the most hollowed out victory speech ever, because again, the sad part is the vote itself was basically 800. There was literally over 2,000 votes opposing the union and 829 in favor. And again, it just got, and I understand where some folks are coming from as far as maybe not wanting to join union, but here's the problem with Amazon. Amazon, again, is anti-union. They basically will, and again, if you've never been to Amazon warehouse, let me stress this very heavily. Amazon has cameras everywhere. Everywhere you work at, you have to either badge or scan in. They know when you're working. They go by an algorithm to see whether or not you're being productive. At the same time, they can care less about you being human, where you need breaks or going to the bathroom, things of that nature. Don't believe me, Amazon drivers all the time keep an extra cam for a reason. That being said, because of their surveillance and because they also talk about anti-union through TVs in their break rooms, through apps that they use for the workers, through their scan devices, they always talk about anti-union. So, of course, for a lot of people, and I know what I'm about to say may not seem very considerate, but Amazon does this. Amazon does what Walmart does. Walmart does. They come to a city. They pretty much try to drown out the mom and pop places, the mom and pop stores, and to only be the only store in town. Now, when you're the only grocery store in town, or the one within the nearest, let's just say 20 to 40 miles of where you live, you have basically made yourself a necessary evil, which means that unless folks are really willing to drive out of their way, or unless there's another option, folks have to come to you. Folks need products, they need groceries and other products, things of that nature. If you are the only source within 40 to 50 miles, you have made yourself a necessary evil. Now, replace Walmart with Amazon. Amazon covered the e-commerce market. They got lower prices. They did Amazon Prime, where you got your stuff in like a day or maybe 2 days at most. Folks and businesses got reliant upon Amazon. Amazon also took over employment, offering, as they say, the highest wages, weights in town, giving you benefits on day one, saying all these great things you can get with Amazon. And again, if you are the biggest employer in town, a lot of folks may not have the bravery. And I said, and again, I guess not bravery. Bravery makes it sound stupid. A lot of folks may not take the leap and say, you know what, against, making sure that my kids eat, my family eats, a stand has to be taken. And some people may not like it, but it also is North Carolina. North Carolina is a red state. They did vote for Trump. Some folks may feel like a union is nothing more than bloodsuckers pretending to have your interests at heart. And that also may, again, still stick with people. But if there's any indication that Amazon does scare people into union busting, that right there, nearly 2,447 votes versus 829 versus 829 yeses versus a lot of no's. Either some folks were scared to lose jobs, some folks were thinking about their livelihoods, and some folks may not just want to join a union. And here's the thing. The unions work, ladies and gentlemen, and if they didn't work, every corporation wouldn't be trying to break every law humanly possible to make sure there's not a union at your workplace. So if you have a union, join it. If you don't have a union, form one. And if a company ever says we're like a family, effing run fast. That also being said, we do have some other news. You guys may or may not remember this case. Andrew Lester, the man that literally shot the teen Ralph Yarl through a door when he supposedly mistaken the teen for an intruder, but the teen was actually knocking on his door, just asking for directions. And this man fired a couple shots through the door. He was actually supposed to be going to his case where he pleaded to felony assault in the second degree, died while waiting sentencing, according to the prosecutor that was announced earlier today. Of course, the prosecutor, we have learned of the passing of Andrew Lester and extend our sincerest condolences to his family during this difficult time. And of course, we acknowledge that Mr. Lester did take responsibility for his actions by pleading guilty in his case. Our thoughts remain with both families affected by this tragic incident as they continue their healing process. Let me say this very clearly to Mr. Andrew Lester, who's no longer with us. Enjoy hell. Enjoy hell. May you rot with gasoline draws on the way down. May you hit a pool of fire on your way up. May you relive the entire incident through the eyes of the victim that you created by basically trying to play a victim yourself. I have no love lost for this man. I have no thoughts and sympathy for this man. This man decided to do what, again, society has labeled them to do. That if you kill a person of color, that unless, you shove off this mortal coil, you may not actually see the time, and we might not actually see the justice that we deserve. So, yeah, I could sit there and say thoughts and prayers, but I'd be lying. Andrew Lester, may you rot in shed. Because you killed a teen that you decided that shooting them through the door was enough for you. And then you tried to hide it. Then you tried to sit there and say you feared for your life, being on the other side of the door. And then instead of it being murder, you got felony assault in the second degree. I am sorry for Mr. Lester. No, I'm really not. I am sorry that this man did not live long enough to see a trial. I'm sorry this man did not live long enough to view the family of the victim that he killed. Am I sorry that this man died before justice got seen? No. I'm only mad about the fact that, while he's sitting there rotting in hell, he doesn't get to do it twice. Sorry, but that's the way I feel about it. But that also being said, guys, the last story that we got before we get to our feel-good segment is the story that, see, this is what's going to bother me. And outside of the fact of Andrew Lester, which, again, may he rot in shit. But this man, RFK, our new Secretary of Health, says that he plans to investigate whether the timing of childhood vaccinations and antidepressant medications are among several possible factors in the nation's problems with chronic diseases. As he says, quote unquote, nothing is going to be off limits. R.F. Kennedy. Oh, Jesus Christ. Secretary, I'm not even calling him Secretary. RFK, this man who every time he talks sounds like he needs herbal tea, a throat lozenge, and Ricola. That guy. The man who had brain lesions on his head. The man who dumped a bear in Central Park because he thought it was the right thing to do. A man who strapped a part of a whale to his car in order to study it from home. A man who at one point was an anti-vaxxer. Yes, He doesn't say it now, but he's still considered a consultant on anti-vaccine cases, to where he pays where a fee is paid to him. Has said multiple times that for the longest time, sat there and said vaccinations have a connection to autism. This guy, who has no doctorate degree, no health experience whatsoever, he gets most of his advice from the internet and from tinfoil hats. And yet, he is now going to be put in charge to where he can affect health policies in the U.S. And here's the problem I have with this, guys, that he is trying to turn around. This is the same guy trying to convince us, well, all these chronic diseases. Well, here's the problem with the chronic diseases. Because the CDC, a long time ago, tried to investigate chronic diseases. They've been trying. But conservatives cut their funding, even now. Going back to the public health thing. Public health, that was part of CDC. Their funding just got cut. Because the conservatives don't want to find answers out to the way they already know. Just like mental illness and firearms. A long time ago, the CDC wanted to do a study between mental illness and firearms, and they wanted the funding to do that. Again, the conservatives being bought out by the NRA and Wayne Pierre at the time basically killed that funding because they didn't want to look into the fact that, mental patients should probably not have guns. They didn't want the data. And now it's just funny when it comes to chronic diseases, things they want to look into. Now they want to sit there and say, RFK won't say, we should look into that. I'm sorry. RFK is the wrong person to look into anything outside of his own health. That man is a danger. Anti-vaxxers will love him because anti-vaxxers believe in not vaccinating. Only because they don't like science. They say they respect science. No, they don't. RFK does not respect science. RFK is like the Alex. You know what it is? RFK is Alex Jones. If you put Alex Jones in department, if you put him in charge of America's health policies. Just saying, we're getting Alex Jones, just a little bit older, now directing health policies, and he's going to look into it. I'm sorry. That is effing scary because this just gives anti-vaxxers and those that don't believe in vaccinations or immunizations, it's just going to give them more fire. And that alone is a terrifying thought. But we're going to go and move on to our feel-good segment, guys, because usually how the fact we got here, we do take a lot of things that sometimes make you, feel doom and gloom, and sometimes make you feel like we ain't got enough going on right now to actually put a smile on our face. But hey, it's Wednesday. Tomorrow is Thursday, which was pre-Friday. We will leave you guys out with some good vibrations, of course, with it being Black History Month, but it's always black on black on black on black 365. Ruby Bridges, a name that you may know or may not know. Civil rights icon, the first to integrate her all-white school back in the 1960s, is actually coming out with the book. And again, for all those that don't know our history, just listen.
And a trailblazer in the civil rights movement. In November 1960, Ruby Bridges became the first black student to integrate her all-white New Orleans public elementary school.
Ruby was only 6 years old and a first grader when she took on that great responsibility. Now, more than 6 decades later, the activist and author has a brand new children's book about that moment in time. It's called Ruby Bridges, A Talk with My Teacher. And lucky for us, Ruby is here this morning. It's so nice to have you. The book is beautiful. It's a terrific story. Your story, of course, has been told in children's books before, but now you get to be in the driver's seat. And this is really a love letter to teachers.
It is. I would not have gotten through that if it had not been for my teacher. And as you know, teachers really quit their jobs back then because they didn't want to teach black kids. But this one teacher came from Boston to teach me. She was amazing. Her name was Barbara Henry. And that's what the book is about.
And we learned that you were so upset when you found out that Barbara Henry, after being your first grade teacher, wouldn't be your second grade teacher. How did that make you feel?
You know, I would say that second grade was much worse for me than first. Because she was my best friend. I didn't have any friends. And I had gotten so close to her. And I was so excited about going back for second grade, telling her what my summer was like, happy to see her again. And she's gone.
And now you all still maintain a relationship, which I'm so happy to hear.
Still alive. She still lives in Boston. And yes, she's like another mom to me.
Wow. When you see that image of you in front of the Williams Brand School, and you're 6 years old, and there's all this tumult going on, how were you able to keep doing that? We see the pictures, but what was happening when we didn't see you as far as pictures, the day-to-day for you?
She filled my day with things to do. She made school fun. I enjoyed learning. Even though the crowd was outside and screaming and yelling, she would go to the window and close the window. She said, "Oh, we're going to have music today," just to drown out everything. We often say, both of us, she and I, that despite all of the hate that was going on outside, inside that room, it was filled with love.
One of the things you talk about, there's a story about going to school and hiding your lunch.
Yes, I did. Well, I wasn't able to go to recess, couldn't go to the cafeteria, I had to have my lunch at my desk. And like any 6-year-old, you want friends. And I remembered what kindergarten was like, that all the kids met in the cafeteria. So I thought, well, I'm never going to make friends if I don't get to the cafeteria. And that prompted me to hide my sandwiches until the mice got really bad. And she found the sandwiches and I was in world of trouble. But yes, that's a true story.
But it was part of also how she was looking out for you too. And
absolutely.
Teachers, it's not just about the learning, it's also about the emotional piece of it. That she really saw she needed to step up.
Yes, and I think that each and every one of us, we probably remember one teacher that made an impact, in our lives, and she was the one for me.
Yeah, your story is 1960, and so many people remember that iconic image in the Norman Rockwell painting, of course, as well. What do you think it is, even all these decades later, about your story, of all the stories in the civil rights movement, that has still struck such a chord?
It's that one lone child. That innocence that we all see when we see that painting. How could that have happened to a 6-year-old? Innocence. And I think that affects each and every one of us when we see it.
Still to this day.
Still to this very day. And for kids, I think that they resonate with it. Every kid remembers someone not wanting to play with them, not giving them a chance. And I think that resonates with them, the story. So I wanted to write that story because constantly I would get the question, what happened in second grade? So that's basically what the book is about.
But it's a beautiful read. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Ruby Bridges, thank you so much. Again, the book is called Ruby Bridges, A Talk with My Teacher.
And that's cool. That, I guess, before. Again, if you don't know your history, you should. At the same time, with Ruby Bridges, what she went through, and the fact that she now have a story. Because again, when it comes to our history, I'm not. I know it's supposed to be a feel good segment. I feel like I'm getting on my soapbox again. Whenever it comes to our history, guys, it matters. It really does. Hush you. It really does matter about our history. It really does matter that our stories are told. There are so many stories out there that are not being told, that should be told, that should be heard, that should be recycled out there. Not recycled, retold for those that will know. It's new to you. But again, if you have the ability, definitely check out that book. Check out libraries, guys. Not just, public libraries are cool. It's the one place they haven't been able to burn books yet. But trust me, they're trying. But definitely check out public libraries. Support your independent bookstores. Support your libraries. These books are there for you to find, guys. And again, you're going to miss these stories when they are gone. But that's going to do it for this podcast. Thank you all for liking, for watching, for letting people know it's live, for commenting. I appreciate all of it. Shameless plugging as usual before we do get out of here, guys. Shout out to APR TV or alwayspressrecord.com. Definitely check them out, guys, as they are one of the many places where you can watch shows like this, whether on alwayspressrecord.com or the APR TV app. Definitely check them out there. They are the vehicles to where our viewership, our content, and most importantly, our Patreon should be going because, hey, Tubi is well worth over $100 million, and that's because of us. So I don't know about you, but I'd rather have my money going to somebody that doesn't own Fox and going to somebody that looks like me. So definitely check out APR TV. Also, BlurStation.com, guys. Again, another table, another vehicle to where our patronage, our contributions, our content And most importantly, our dollars should be going back to us. Again, guys, if you haven't seen it, please go to blurrstation.com, check it out. It is a streaming site that has movies, television, things of that nature. Comic book shows like Issue 1, which is coming out, and also a BlurCon coming up. You'll have a live stream coming up there. But once you have blurrstation.com, just the Join Now button. From Join Now, you can basically select the Blur's Eye View Affinity membership there and select any member there. Any one of us would appreciate that. It is $10.99 a month to stream Blur Station. $10.99 a month. You cannot beat that with a stick. But definitely check that out, guys, because again, it is a vehicle to where we keep saying we want to have our own. This is it. Outside of APR TV and blurrstation.com, check them both out. Also, runforoffice.org. You want to know how the crazy people did it? You want to know how Moms for Liberty did it? You want to know how these people were able to infiltrate our government and get into places to where they're now about to have us do the FA and FO part? Well, this is basically it. If you ever thought about running for office, guys, you can definitely go to runforoffice.org, type in your address there. It actually takes you the process, how to get on the ballot, how to actually run, and if elected, if you do feel the call for public service. I cannot stress this enough, guys. I know for me, I've been considering public service, but at the same time, it can't be just me. There's got to be more of us out there that are willing to basically put in the work and actually fix things from the ground up. We cannot expect to fix things at a national level at first. There has to be groundwork done at the foundation. So if you do feel the call for public service, please check out for runforoffice.org and get started in that process. Now, as for me, as my screen decided that it just decided to go dark, hold up a second. Let's fix this. There we go. Okay. There I am. You know, stream. Come on, Stock Studio. Work with me just a little bit. So, ask myself, guys. You can find the show How the Frack We Got Here. It has its own IG page. It has its own YouTube page. It has its own Facebook page. All labeled How the Frack We Got Here. Definitely check those pages out. Like them. Subscribe to them. Hit the notification bell. So that way you'll know anytime we go live, you will be notified as when we're going live. Because, guys, I appreciate everybody liking, commenting. Patrick, how's it going, man? I do see what you said, sir. Can't hardly wait for BlurCon coverage. Agreed. It's scary when you have a family, but someone has to do it. Yeah, fair. Very much so. But yeah, outside of that, guys, How the Frack We Got Here has its own IG page, YouTube page, Facebook page. Like, share, subscribe. Make sure the notification bell is on, because anytime we do upload something, you will definitely be notified about it. At the same time, guys, the podcast can be found where podcasts can be found or heard, whether it's Apple Music, Google Play, Spotify. We do try to make it as well known as we can. But hey, listen to the likes, run the numbers up, because we cannot do any of this without you. We want it to be bigger, but we need your support. Also, check out my other podcasting companions on the Blur's Eye View website, Blur's Eye View YouTube and Facebook pages. Blur's Eye View also is every Tuesday and Thursday, which means we will have a live show tomorrow. You'll be able to check out all of our companions, Room Full of Blurs, Geek by Heart, Mayhem Media, Show Quo, Whoop-de Freakin' Do, Navy Montel, Tafari TV. You'll be able to check all those guys out as they all have their own YouTube and IG pages. But again, show them love because they showed me love. And again, we're all just one big happy family, but we're all trying to make it. So, that being said, guys, I'm going to say the same thing I've said beforehand, because we are in the dark ages. Check on your people. Check on your people. Make sure that you have time for yourself. Develop, give yourself some me time. Always give yourself grace. Give others grace when you can. Do not let this misinformation beat you down and leave you defeated, disencouraged. We must unionize, we must strategize, mobilize, and finally roll out. That's how it should be. At the same time, guys, keep some hope in your hearts. Keep a smile on your face. We will get through this, I promise you. But the last thing I say about How the Frack We Got Here, guys, is all about staying informed. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel. We are simply giving you all the information to make up your own mind. We do better as society once we're informed. We're progressive. We move forward. We try to right the wrongs of our past, making decisions now that we should have made back then. Like electing our first black woman to the Supreme Court, electing our first black woman to the Federal Board of Governors. Hopefully one day. We were very close. We just need the other folks to get on board with us. That one day we'll have a black woman that we can call her Madam President. All great things. When we don't learn from history, we are doomed to repeat it. 2016. 2025. Just saying. That basically means we are doing a repeat, which means that, we'll keep asking ourselves the questions: why does everything go up about our paycheck? Why are we letting different politicians but still the same old game in Congress? And most importantly, how the frack we got here. Thank you all for watching, guys. Please take care of yourselves and each other. Keep your peace. Give people grace. And I promise we'll make it. Take care, guys. Peace.